Tonight on NewsVision, the measles outbreak in the country is growing, and it has now reached Miami. We will tell you which high school has been affected.
Just want to know what that means for my kid. Like, is she safe? What precautions are being taken?
Plus, as spring breakers are headed to Miami, we will take a look at the strict regulations that Miami Beach has implemented to keep the city safe.
There's two sides of it. So for the business, it's not good, but also we feel that it's better for our security.
And later on, we remember beloved UM student Daniel Bishop on the first anniversary of his death. All this and more on tonight's show, and it starts right now. Good evening and welcome to NewsVision. I'm Christopher Perez.
And I'm Lauren Harrington. Thank you for joining us. Many Americans have been concerned after a measles outbreak began in Texas in late January.
As of now, according to the Centers for Disease Control, there have been more than 160 reported cases in about 10 states.
One unvaccinated child died from the disease recently. That's the first death caused by measles in the United States since 2015. And now Florida has become one of these affected states.
On Wednesday, Miami Palmetto Senior High School advised parents that one student has tested positive for measles.
Kayla Butter is live at the school to tell us more. Kayla?
Lauren and Chris, one student here at Miami Palmetto Senior High School in Pinecrest has been confirmed for having measles. This is the first reported case in the state of Florida this year. The school has not released any identifying information about the student, including their name, age, or gender, but experts say that there is a 97% chance that the student did not get vaccinated for the measles, mumps, and rubella, or MMR vaccine. I spoke with concerned students and parents here at the school to hear their thoughts on the outbreak. The measles outbreak that started in Texas several weeks ago has now arrived in Florida. One high school student in Miami Palmetto Senior High School has become the first measles case in the state this year. Across at least 10 U.S. states, more than 160 cases of measles have been reported, and one child in Texas has died. Some parents of students at the affected school are concerned about the outbreak.
I just want to know what that means for my kid. Like, is she safe? What precautions are being taken?
But some students at the school do not seem as worried about what the outbreak could mean.
To be honest, too, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, it's one person, but it does spread quick, so I think it could be a big thing if it's not taken care of.
When a measles case is detected at a school, common public health recommendations are that students who are not vaccinated should stay home for up to 21 days, which is the period of time someone could get infected and spread the virus further. Symptoms for the measles start with a fever, cough, runny nose, and red and watery eyes, followed a few days later with a red rash that starts at the hairline and moves down to the rest of the body.
Really only the unvaccinated that are at risk.
Doctors across the country say that for those who are not yet vaccinated, getting the MMR immunization even a couple of days after being exposed to the virus could decrease the chance of being sick, and if anything, will limit the severity of symptoms if infected. The school is hosting a free MMR immunization drive over the next couple of days for unvaccinated students with parental consent. From Miami Palmetto Senior High School, Kayla Butter, UMTV.
Thank you, Kayla. According to the CDC, 96% of the reported measles cases affect unvaccinated people. This comes as the new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has previously questioned vaccine safety, now urges parents to vaccinate their children to prevent further outbreaks. RFK Jr. said in a statement to Fox News, all parents should consult with their healthcare providers to understand their options to get the MMR vaccine. The decision to vaccinate is a personal one. Vaccines not only protect individual children from measles, but also contribute to community immunity, protecting those who are unable to be vaccinated due to medical reasons. Kennedy has a history of anti-vaccine comments. He has previously said no vaccine is safe and effective, and has previously tied vaccines to a rise in autism. Studies have shown the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is safe and effective.
This is Coast to Coast, bringing you coverage from across the United States. I'm Shane McDonald.
And I'm Ariel Weil. Earlier today, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to censure Democratic Representative Al Green, who disrupted President Trump's address to Congress on Tuesday.
Now, censure is not a punishment, nor does it restrict the actions on the representative, but it is a formal condemnation on the Congress member's behavior.
Green was removed from the chamber after refusing to sit down per House Speaker Johnson's request.
Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
This was Trump's first address to Congress in his second term as president. 10 Democrats skipped on the event, and others also interrupted the speech and held up posters.
These disturbances in part drew the speech to over 90 minutes, making it one of the longest presidential addresses to Congress in U.S. history.
During the speech, Trump addressed legislation changes during the first month of his presidency. Trump's first congressional address of his second term as president focused on economic issues facing Americans and his future plans for the market's growth. Still, he made sure to pin the current economic state of the country on the previous administration.
As you know, we inherited from the last administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare.
This comes as the president announced the implementation of large tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China on items such as steel, aluminum, and energy.
April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in, and whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them.
The administration has stated in part that these tariffs put pressure on countries to monitor the illegal smuggling of drugs like fentanyl into the U.S. But Trump is facing backlash as some now argue that the tariffs will instead increase inflation by raising import prices. After speaking with big U.S. car manufacturers, Trump delayed the tariffs on Canada by 30 days. And this morning he did the same with Mexico after discussions with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
Trump said the tariff delay is out of respect to Mexico's president. And on a social media platform, Truth Social, he congratulated the relationship between the U.S. and Mexico. He wrote, quote, "I did this as an accommodation out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together on the border, both in terms of stopping illegal aliens from entering the United States and likewise stopping fentanyl. Thank you to President Sheinbaum for your hard work and cooperation." In his address to Congress, Trump also spoke about his immigration policies and the administration's crackdown on illegal migrants, as well as his desire to move away from, quote, woke policies from the previous administration. This congressional address comes after Trump's intense conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky last Friday.
President Zelensky was invited to the White House to discuss America's aid to Ukraine in support of his country's war against Russia. However, Trump Vice President J.D. Vance and Zelensky's conversation in front of cameras became very heated.
You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
Trump and Vance publicly cracked down on Zelensky's leadership during the conversation, as Trump put the pressure on Zelensky to make concessions for a peace deal.
No position can dictate that. Remember this.
There was just a certain sense of, there was a lack of respect, there was a certain sense of entitlement.
After the meeting, White House officials confirmed Trump's decision to pause aid to Ukraine. In the past 3 years, the U.S. has provided Ukraine with over $180 billion in assistance, including most of its advanced weapons. Analysts say that the decision to pause aid to Ukraine could cause lasting devastation and could last until Kyiv commits to peace talks.
Yesterday, President Zelensky says he wants to make amends with President Trump and work towards negotiations.
Trump announced he has received a letter from Zelensky saying that Ukraine is not only open to negotiations, but has also agreed to a minerals deal.
Now Trump says he is also having conversations with Russia and said, quote, "If you want to end wars, you have to work with both sides." It is unclear when Trump and Zelensky might meet again.
Now that's all the time we have for you today on Coast to Coast. Back to you.
Thank you, Shay and Ariel. The University of Miami has received a grade A ranking from the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL. This is a private organization working to limit bias and anti-Semitism in the United States. The league gives each college campus a grade based on their safety for Jewish students and inclusion. Some of these requirements include having a student organization supporting Israel. The new student organization called Students Supporting Israel at the University of Miami was part of why UM received this grade A ranking. And for one of the organization's first events, the members held a vigil to honor the lives of the Israeli hostages who were murdered by Hamas. I got a chance to attend the event. Cameron Newman, former president of Students Supporting Israel at the University of Miami, has been closely following the war in the Middle East since Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. Like millions around the world, he has been appalled by the violence.
It's unparalleled in human history, the cruelty we're seeing, and the Jewish people are up for the challenge, and the West is up for the challenge. It's not going to go on. And the message of everyone being here is that we understand that. And to support the Bibas family and the greater people of Israel, that's the reason we're here.
The Bibas family, Shiri, her husband Yarden, and their two young sons, Ahriel and Kfir, were taken hostage from kibbutz near Oz. Yarden was held separately and later released, but Shiri and the children were killed in captivity. The family was among more than 250 Israeli hostages taken by Hamas militants on October 7th, when they attacked Israel, killing some 1,200 people, which resulted in Israel retaliating. To honor the lives of murdered hostages, students at UM held a vigil on campus, one of many in recent months, all of them peaceful.
It feels good to be able to have an event with this, especially without any backlash. My friends at other schools around the country, top schools, Ivy League, other private institutions, this isn't the case. They can't have a peaceful gathering.
Students held a moment of silence as the names of the dead hostages were read out loud.
I had a lot of friends, family friends overseas, and after October 7th, some of their friends have died. I was in Israel last summer. I was a block from a Houthi missile strike, so that was a little nerve-wracking. Someone died just a block away. And I decided to join the Israeli Defense Force. I'm joining next year because of this. So yeah, it's changed like the course of my life, I guess.
For Newman, events like this are his hope for the future.
This is America. Jews and non-Jews standing together against the radical forces that want to drive us apart and drive the country down. This right here is America, and this will not change. The desire for peace and the strong will towards a better future.
Students at the University of Miami are at risk of losing the ability to hold similar student activist events, such as this vigil, because of new restrictions by President Trump. Trump announced the federal government will pull funds for U.S. schools that allow what he is calling illegal protests. This announcement comes one day after the Trump administration said it will evaluate the ongoing protests against Israeli students at Columbia University. The president has not specified what is considered an illegal protest under the new orders, but this is part of new federal orders impacting restrictions on free speech, compliance with Title IX changes, management of financial aid, and civil rights policies.
Tuesday marked the one-year anniversary of the death of a beloved UM student. Senior Daniel Bishop was hit by a car while riding a scooter near campus. Several of the student organizations that Daniel was a part of held private memorial events to celebrate his legacy. Among them, President's 100, It's on Us, Hurricane Productions, Breakthrough Miami, and Hillel. Students also left flowers and decorations at the new bench dedicated in honor of Bishop's legacy outside the Richter Library.
We will take a short break now, but coming up, we will take you live to Miami Beach for a look at the new rules that the city has imposed to keep residents and tourists safe this spring break season. Details in just a minute.
It's important to get a flu shot each and every year because flu viruses are constantly changing and immunity from the vaccine decreases over time. Flu vaccines are updated annually to work against that year's viruses. The best time to get your shot is in the fall, but getting it later can still help. Getting a flu shot lowers your risk of getting sick, and if you do happen to get flu, it's likely to be less severe.
Next week, students at the University of Miami will be on spring break, and while some Canes will head out of town, many tourists will be flying into Miami for the break.
But Miami Beach is cracking down on spring breakers this year with new rules.
Some say the strict rules are to keep the city safe, but others argue they're ruining the fun.
Quinn Davidson joins us live from Miami Beach with more on the impact of these restrictions. Quinn, what prompted these new rules?
Yeah, Chris and Lauren, the city of Miami Beach is stepping up enforcement this spring break, from DUI checkpoints to alcohol bans on the sand. And now Miami Beach spring break is known for its big crowds and even bigger parties. But the past few years, these have turned violent, for thousands of arrests, even some casualties, alcohol abuse, and many more problems. The city of Miami Beach is enforcing these rules with all the hope to prevent that issue from happening again.
The party would be one thing, but it was a lot of illegal activity going on, and then ultimately we had some modified stampedes, we had shootings, we even had fatalities literally on our street. That's completely unacceptable.
It was kind of dangerous because there were some dead people, sadly, just in front of us, right here in the corner, 7th Street, right over there.
To prevent that from happening, Miami Beach officials have started cracking down on spring breakers by imposing curfews, road closures, and alcohol bans, all in an effort to prevent chaos. Throughout March, the city will close parking garages and surface lots south of 23rd Street during peak weekends, enforce a $100 flat parking fee at certain garages, and ban coolers, inflatable devices, tents, and tables on the beach. Also, smoking on beaches or in parks, consumption of alcohol in public, and loud music are strictly forbidden.
We spent literally months preparing what measures we wanted to take. I worked with our legal department and really giving the city manager not just a guide, but direction. This is mandated by our city commission.
Clearly says she can't read, sir. Spring break!
Worst spring break
ever.
City officials are also using social media to get their message across. This year's reality check ad warns visitors about Miami Beach's strict enforcement policies and what happens if they break the law. But the stricter rules have left some tourists confused.
We're from Canada. We just got to Miami like an hour and a half ago. We've already been walking for about 45 minutes trying to get to the beach, and we were just told we need to walk another half mile just to get to the DUI checkpoint, and we're in sandals. Like, we need our sneakers for all this walking. This is ridiculous.
But many locals have welcomed the heightened security measures.
So there's two sides of it. So for the business, it's not good, but also we feel that it's better for our security. So it's kind of, like we feel more protected.
Last year, our hotel occupancy was up 1.8% from the year prior when we did have shootings. Our hotel rate for the month of March was $363. The GMCVB, which is sort of the tourism entity for Miami-Dade County, told us that was the highest in the nation.
And while the debate over these restrictions continue, spring break is in full swing here in Miami Beach. Look at all these people behind me having so much fun on Ocean Drive. But if you are heading to Ocean Drive or South Beach this weekend, the weather will be in your favor. But if you're trying to head in the water, be careful. There is a small craft advisory in effect for the Atlantic and Gulf Coast waters, where waves are expected to be 4 to 6 feet, with isolated sets up to 8. Now, before these beautiful temperatures and sunny conditions prevail this weekend, we will be seeing temperatures quite chilly tomorrow morning in the low 50s in some spots, even upper 40s across certain areas of South Florida. But after we push through that, our next 7 days is looking to be absolutely stunning and stellar, with temperatures in the upper 70s, even 80s this weekend. And our next rain chance will be on Monday when we have another cold front. Live from Miami Beach, I'm Quinn Davidson, UMTV.
Thank you, Quinn. And while Miami is looking great for spring break, the Midwest has faced severe weather.
Student meteorologist William DiPaola is here to tell us more. William?
Guys, at least 6 people have died in Nebraska and Mississippi from blizzards and high winds this past week, and Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas were hit with several tornadoes. Let's take a look at the low pressure system across the Great Plains that caused all of this weather. Now, as we see behind me, we see this system pushing from west to east across the country. See these red icons popping up. Now, these are observed tornadoes that were confirmed by the National Weather Service while this storm system pushed across the country. Now, the tornadoes were not the only threat with this storm, as we did see a lot of damaging wind as this storm did push across the country. In fact, Fort Worth, Dallas, at the airport, they registered a wind gust of 74 miles an hour. Now, this is equivalent to a Category 1 hurricane. Now, as much of the country did see rain, us here in South Florida, we are in a drought. We see much of the region in a moderate drought, but here, just north of us in Miami, we're in a severe drought. So hopefully those rain chances that Quinn was talking about do benefit us down here in Miami.
Thanks, William. And still ahead, the Hurricanes men's basketball team has a new head coach taking the court. We'll tell you who it is, this, and more sports after the break. Stay with us.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome to sports. I'm John Stanley. Miami's men's basketball had its final road game this week against Georgia Tech. Let's take a look at how the Canes fared against the Yellow Jackets. Canes looking for their first bucket. Austin Schwartz is going to let it fly from deep, and he gets that one to drop, and Miami is on the board. Later in the first, Brandon Johnson, he's going to get on the offensive glass, get that rebound, kick it out to Cleveland, who's going to take his defender for a dance. He'll drive the baseline, turn the corner on him, and finish up through the contact for the and one. Tough bucket for Cleveland. He led the way for Miami in scoring once again with 29 points. Great bucket there. Before half, Miami needs points. Schwartz lets it fly again from way downtown. Give me 3. String music from Schwartz to cut it to 10 before half. Georgia Tech would start to pull away though, but Brandon Johnson's going to intercept that inbound pass. He'll take it back for the fast break dunk. Johnson turning defense to offense right there for some points. But Georgia Tech had some offense of its own. Lance Terry's going to drive. He'll go up and under 2 Canes for the reverse finish. A beautiful bucket there. And the Yellow Jackets sting the Canes 89-74. Miami drops yet another ACC matchup. As the men and women's basketball seasons wrap up this week, we now know both squads will miss out on the ACC and NCAA tournaments. It's an unfortunate end for both teams, but there are a few key reasons why Miami basketball struggled this season. The first problem was neither team had a defining star to command the court. On the men's side, Matthew Cleveland took on the scoring role, but was not consistent enough to carry the load every night. And for the women's team, Haley Cavender was a somewhat reliable number 1 option, but shot under 50% from the field, and the team struggled to adjust when the defense keyed in on her. The next issue was each team's bench. Both squads struggled to find supporting players that could keep the game in check while the starters were on the bench. And lastly, the biggest issue for both teams was their defense. In points per game allowed, women's ranked 3rd to last in the ACC, and the men ranked dead last. It's simple. If you let up 80 points a game on average, you're not going to win very many basketball games. Luckily for the men's basketball team, help is on the way. The team announced this morning that former Duke assistant Jay Lucas will be the new head coach. Lucas brings an impressive resume with him as he's been a part of 7 top 10 recruiting classes, 7 NCAA tournament appearances, 11 NBA draft picks, and 13 all-conference players during his time at Duke. He's a young coach with a whole bunch of energy that the Miami program has been lacking in the past few seasons. and he has the stamp of approval from a number of Miami legends, including Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. As part of the new sports media initiative here at the UM School of Communications, Jonathan Vilma, who is a former UM and NFL linebacker, came back to the 305 to speak to students. After retiring from the NFL in 2013, Vilma decided to break into sports broadcasting. Now he's in his 5th season as a Fox Sports NFL analyst. He also recapped his glory days as a Cane, winning the 2001 National Championship and the life lessons he learned on the field.
We lost that game. We lost in overtime, and you can say whatever you want, should we lost. The point is we did. And the fact is that we lost because we were not as demanding as we were the prior year. We weren't forcing it out of each other.
The one thing that Vilma constantly emphasized during the talk is the importance of hard work. And speaking of hard work, one young athlete is making waves in the soccer world, proving that talent and determination knows no age or gender. But as Delaney Haddad explains, this soccer star has no fear and is kicking down doors and breaking barriers.
Hard work, long hours, and lots of dedication. That's what it takes to be a great athlete. Like 14-year-old Miami native Liz Marie Espinoza. She plays for the Florida United Soccer Club and is a starter for Motor Lakes Academy's varsity team, all while still in middle school.
They had to sign something to let me go play over there. I ended up trying out, and then I got on the varsity team and I started playing with them.
That was actually so sweet because she's like, Mom, I'm only 13, I made the varsity. And I was like, well, that's good.
While she is the youngest player on the team by far, this is not Liz Marie's first time being the odd one out. Liz Marie knew she wanted to play for her middle school soccer team, but turns out they didn't have a girls' team. So instead of giving up, she joined the boys' team.
It showed her resilience, her determination to say, hey, you know what? There's no girls' team, but I'm going to join the boys' team.
It didn't take long for Liz Marie to gain the respect of her teammates. She even outperformed some of them.
The guys on the team would support me, and they would push me on the field. They'd be like, go, go, go. In one game, I bodied a boy, and the whole team started laughing, and they're like, that's so embarrassing, getting bodied by a girl.
Liz Marie's skills are only elevated by her passion for the game and drive for success.
I wanted to be the best on the team and show that I'm good.
Remember your time. Remember your time.
I have the skills to be here.
Do you think you're the best?
Yes. Yes. Gotta have that confidence.
Now with high school right around the corner, Liz Marie has set high expectations for her future, and she knows just what to do to get there.
Well, first I have to start training hard now so I can get looked at for colleges. I play hard throughout college. I get scouted by a professional team, a team in Europe. I feel like the sports over there are better for women and the money.
I mean, for Liz, I feel like it's limitless. Wherever life takes her, I know she'll leave a mark wherever she stands because she's passionate, she's dedicated, she's relentless in the best possible way.
Delaney Haddad, UMTV.
One of University of Miami's biggest sports fans, Bill Archer, the owner of Miami's pizza shop called The Big Cheese, passed away on February 21st after suffering from medical issues, including kidney cancer and heart aneurysms. Archer was a, quote, die-hard University of Miami sports fan and sponsored the UM's football, basketball, and baseball teams with post-game meals. A memorial service will be held for Archer this Saturday at Christ of Kings Lutheran Church on 112th Street and 57th Avenue, followed by a reception at the Big Cheese. All are welcome to join and celebrate Archer's life and legacy. Bill Archer was 65 years old. And we'll be right back.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. And so they need you to stand with them.
And finally, you may have heard about a pair of bald eagles named Jackie and Shadow. They live in California's Big Bear Valley, and thanks to a live camera near their nest, they have become an internet sensation. And now congratulations are in order for the nation's most famous bald eagle couple. Jackie and Shadow have hatched 2 chicks. This marks the first time in nearly 3 years that the eagle couple has had a successful hatching. There is a 3rd egg in the nest that still has a chance of hatching. All eyes are now on the happy family and if there will be another pip. which is the initial crack of an eggshell as a chick begins to hatch. That is the absolute cutest thing.
It is. I should have changed my spring break plans to go see them.
Well, that's all the time that we have for this edition of NewsVision.
Next week we will be on spring break, but be sure to tune in the same time on March 20th. Have a good night.